Welcome to Love Being American, where you can catch up on the major events and political issues that are happening around the country. Now introducing two millennials who love being American, your hosts, Andrew and Henry.
Hello, and we're back with I Love Being American. I'm, of course, Henry.
This is Andrew, and welcome to episode number 2.
Best episode yet. I got a good feeling. We got some good vibes coming off here. And the reason why we got some good vibes is we're drinking some beer. First beers of the night, St. Archer's White Ale Brew. And this one hails out of San Diego, California. And, I mean, as far as beers go, this isn't the strongest beer around. But it's got some weedy malts coming in here. Refreshing with a little tart and spicy fruity flavor that of course the wheat protein and yeast yield. And if you want something refreshing, especially in a hot summer day, I think this is the way to go.
So Henry bought me a beer, and it's just called Sucks, and it's by Lagunitas. And it is...
Does it suck?
No, it's not bad. It's a little bitter, but I just discovered it's called Lagunitas, and we live fairly close to Laguna Beach, so I thought it was Laguna Beach beer forever. But now I see that it's out of Petaluma, California.
Where is that?
I have no idea either. It's probably in the middle of nowhere. But I looked them up online, and they have a brewing room in New York City. So it's kind of weird. New York City and
Lagunitas in Laguna Beach. Wow, that's
No, it's not Laguna Beach. It's in.
It sounds like it is though.
I know. It's in Petaluma in New York City. That's kind of weird.
You're covering the spectrum of American class.
But this is interesting. They brewed this beer to replace the holiday release in the cold and capacity-bound winter of 2011. So this was brewed in 2011. It quickly sucked out of their brewery, leaving them a capacity problem and a little worse off because they couldn't brew as much beer that year. So that's why it says Lagunitas sucks. So I guess this was like a beer to combat a problem.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
problem
I guess
solvers.
They're saying they suck, but yeah, I don't know if I've ever had a beer from 2011 before, so.
Did it age well?
It aged very well.
Okay. I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
Of course, you have your wines, you have your liquors that, it would get better with age. Apparently, we're trying it with beer, too.
Yeah, it's a new thing. So we're about to turn it to a little more somber note. And the theme of today's episode is we're going to be talking about terrorism, and a little more specifically is ISIS. Because 1 week ago today, we had the Paris attacks.
Yeah, and then the Paris attacks that happened last Friday at the initiation of our first episode. But before that, we had some ISIS attacks going on. We had the Russian airplane that exploded that was flying over Egypt. In Beirut, Lebanon, there was a terrorist bombing. Paris, of course, and then in Mali, the United States sent special forces into to a hotel that was stormed by a terrorist group.
And that happened this morning.
That happened this morning?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that was a little... For some reason, I thought it happened a couple days, so that's fresh. That's fresh off the press.
Yeah, so I guess we'll back it up, and we'll just go in the order of these events, and if you haven't heard about them, we'll briefly touch on them. I think the one that happened the latest would be the Russian plane being downed. And it's interesting because Paris, that got a lot of coverage, but actually there were more casualties in the plane being downed, right? The plane...
How many did it held?
219 Russians.
219 Russians. It wasn't just Russians, though.
Primarily Russians. Yeah, there were some other people on there. Actually, no. Yeah, so 219 Russians and 5 people from other countries.
And this was done with a soda can bomb.
Yeah, it was a non-alcoholic soda can beer, I guess. It was Schweppes, but I guess like a non-alcoholic type.
I thought they make like club soda.
Yeah, so this was like their Egyptian brand. What's interesting about this, though, is ISIS released a picture of the bomb, like kind of touting what took down the plane. And so it's basically this like 2 pounds of like TNT or whatever explosive packed into a soda can, and then it was strategically placed between like the jet fuel, like where the jet fuel
Right.
gets like released into the engine of the plane by, someone who works on the inside, and that's what blew it up.
So it wasn't like a carry-on.
No,
It was a bag that was checked
no,
in
no.
onto the plane.
So it was carried onto the plane.
It was carried onto
Yeah,
the plane.
it wasn't a
the people who
check-on.
chose. Oh.
So what it sounds like is, a stewardess or someone who's like basically a suicide bomber is willing to plant this strategically.
You had
it
to have
wasn't a
known
carry-on.
somebody if you know
Yeah, no.
exactly where to put it. I mean, I'm sure that information isn't exactly classified, but
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. But I read that some scientists took a look at this thing because it was a clock bomb. So any bomb you see, think of it.
Has a little
The
timer.
classic timer. Yeah, exactly. So they're saying like the bomb that ISIS showed doesn't look like that's actually the bomb that went off because there's no timer, there's no like logic board or whatever. I'm not a bomb expert, but the bomb experts were saying they're kind of like skeptical of this, saying that they're not really sure if this was the exact thing that blew up the plane. So it's interesting.
so there's no confirmation that was the bomb, but ISIS was saying that
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
they did.
They might have been trying to show they're a little more badass than they actually are.
You
but
think they take credit for things they don't do?
No, but I could see them saying like, "Look at this little bomb we blew up," but really, it was
Using
more,
a different bomb?
yeah. But if you're
I mean,
actually,
why would you give out your secrets of the trade?
yeah, that's true too. Like, why
But
would
they've
they
been
show
known
everything?
To do something. I mean, they did talk trash on Anonymous.
Well, yeah,
The hacker.
they just said they were gonna kill. They just said they're gonna kill Obama. So
Yeah, but I mean, these guys are prone to making lavish comments and insults and threats, and I mean, the response by Anonymous was pretty spectacular. Within 24 hours, they shut down 5,500 Twitter accounts and 129 websites.
yeah. So for those of you who don't know, after the Paris attacks, Anonymous, which is basically like a group of hackers, and it's
Probably
not
the best in the world.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily Anonymous is strange is that it's not like 50 guys all over the world who are like, let's go and hack ISIS. It's more like, there's a group of Anonymous and like there's basically no organization whatsoever within this group. It's kind of more of a like name that hackers go by. So while there's an official Anonymous account that like goes and does that publicly, from what I've heard and from people I've talked to, the real Anonymous, the people who actually do the
Right.
damages, don't go by Anonymous. They kind of skirted away from being called Anonymous because it's
Is
gone
that
to
the voice?
yeah, it's
Essentially,
gone
the
to be
vo-
something that they don't not necessarily agree with, but it's gone to be so mainstream that they're like they don't
don't
care about the
associate it with
publicity. But yeah, so what you were saying is Anonymous took down a bunch of accounts.
So I mean, they have been and speaking of payback for this, I guess assault essentially on Russians. Russia responded and sent a pack of 25 bombers, launching missiles from 3 different strategic bombers. It was the first time that these bombers have been used in a number of years, but
Yeah, so
14 terrorist facilities of special importance were destroyed by 34 cruise missiles. And one of the most probably notable facilities struck was the fuel supply chain, which Russia has vested interest in with all of the import blockades by the United States. Russia's primarily commodity-based economy of
oil exports.
oil export. Wow, I just had a little bit of a brain fart. Oil exports has been drastically affected, and so they have a lot to necessarily write on this because the prices of oil and gas directly affect how Russian is perceived in the world and their power. If they're not getting in imports at a reasonable or exports at a reasonable price, their economy suffers drastically. So they hit them where it hurts, and that's probably one of ICE's primary supplies of cash. So they responded, and I mean, the 200 deaths I don't think was worth what the Russian response was.
Yeah. I mean, just to put into magnitude of how big this air campaign was, Russia flew 25 bombers backed by 8 Su-34s, which is kind of like the equivalent to an F-16, and then 4 Su-30SMs, which is just like, it's equivalent to just a different model F-16 as well. But flying that many bombers at once has never been done before in like a modern air campaign. That's the biggest modern air campaign that's ever happened. And that kind of shows Russia's strength. Like, that's a huge deal that they did this.
That's like borderline invasion. Like, you're prepping for invasion in a sense. Like, you don't just, it's not like what we do. We send a few out, we nail a couple points, airstrikes, boom, we got so-and-so.
Yeah.
You know, we bombed their headquarters right here. No, this is a full-on assault.
Yeah, and to put it in comparison, the biggest time in U.S. history, the most bombers we've ever flown at once is 8. And our capabilities are maxed out at the same time during like a modern air campaign.
Okay.
It was during the 1990, Iraq Desert Storm. So we flew 8, and then at any time in the world, we could fly like 18, I think, at the same time. So the fact that they flew 25 bombers was huge.
We have only the capacity to fly 18 bombers, and they flew 25.
Yeah, they flew 25. And if you haven't seen what these things look like, they're named, we'll put a picture up in the show notes, but they're named the White Swan. And we're looking at a picture.
We're looking at a picture,
and they basically look like a freaking white swan.
Like a more finely cut stealth bomber, but white. And, I mean,
they're pretty badass looking.
If 25 of these came flying overhead, I'd be a bit scared.
Yeah.
I'd be heading for the hills. I mean, and it's funny, and I guess a discussion is, like, how do we deal with terrorism? How do we deal with ISIS? And we're seeing a variety of strategies. We have Russia, who's just
bombing them,
holding nothing back. We're just, you took down a plane. All right, we're gonna send you everything. We're gonna rain hell down on you. And then we have, and that's coming from the eastern side of the world. And then we have President Obama, who's having a little bit more of a passive approach.
Definitely passive.
And it's kind of interesting. I want to say we're supposed to be leading the war on terror. And I wonder if our response is as effective as what Russia's doing at this point.
So what's interesting is, as of today, everything's kind of set in stone with what happened in Paris, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who don't know, actually, come on, I'm not even going to explain it. If you don't know what happened in Paris, Google it, because you're probably living under a rock.
You're not listening to us if you don't know what happened in Paris.
Yeah, so basically, there were those terrorist attacks in Paris, and that was a horrible thing. Something I'd just like to touch on briefly is, it's interesting because I know this might be a little morbid, but the way death happens, like, kind of sets the world's reaction, right? So, like, a lot of people die in airplane crashes,
Absolutely.
Right? So it's interesting. So when when the Russian airplane went down, it was a big deal. But it's like, another group of people died in an airplane crash. They're not frequent, but they happen every year, right?
Right.
So the reaction wasn't as big. And then Paris, you had a bunch of people die. And, it was a horrible massacre at dinner, and at a rock concert, basically. Yeah, cafes.
It was a soccer match.
No, bomb happened outside the soccer match. So, yeah, people doing normal things that you do on a Friday night. And when someone dies or people
living
die,
their day-to-day life.
Yeah, it's a bigger deal because death isn't supposed to happen at a rock concert, sitting in a cafe, going to a soccer match. And
was it the people who it happened to, though, that made the response different?
this response is overwhelming, and Americans, feel closer to France than they do. There's bombings in Beirut, and that wasn't necessarily as big, but people think, Beirut, they think the Middle East, Lebanon. I mean,
stuff happens there.
Yeah, stuff happens there. And,
but it's not supposed to happen in Paris.
Yeah.
So planes supposedly frequently, get blown up over Egypt and,
Ukraine, stuff happened. I mean, it doesn't happen, but it's just like...
But it's the perception.
The Western mindset.
Now, Paris, France gave us the Statue of Liberty. We have, there's historically, as far as Western civilization, France is a key player in the development of the modern day Western civilization, and that is why it's a big deal.
Yeah, War of 1812, they helped us out then.
They helped us out there.
They helped us out in the Revolutionary War.
We helped them out in World War I, World War II. There's a long history. These, I guess when you think of I don't know if you could have countries and brothers and sisters.
France is like your brother, best friend, almost.
And then, you have Great Britain. I mean, if this were to happen in Great Britain, again, this would be, I honestly think it would be a bigger deal if it happened in Great Britain.
Yeah,
even though that we fought a civil war, or we fought a revolutionary war to get away from Britain, those, again, that's like a brother country.
Yeah, definitely. Just like anywhere in Europe. So, the France attacks happened. There was a raids earlier this week, yesterday, where they were able to
find the mastermind, correct?
Yeah, and I don't even really want to talk about them or mention their names. Because
they don't deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. They don't deserve it.
We're not going to glorify. We know what happened. Regardless of who did it, we're not going to give them the advertisement.
Yeah, so supposedly they killed the team leader this morning. Or not this morning, but yesterday. But what was interesting is, so France responded, right, by launching all these airstrikes.
Right.
And from my sources that I've talked to, they've basically said that everywhere that France hit in the airstrikes were soft targets. So, abandoned ISIS buildings. There was one hard target where there was a militant training compound where it killed 33 people. But mostly, they were just hitting these ISIS targets that were already abandoned. So, which says that it's more for show, right?
That is not a response that I would want. Imagine if that happened in the United States.
Yeah.
If that happened in New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, we wouldn't be, I hope we are not responding with hitting soft targets. That's an attack. That's an attack on French soil. That wasn't just one. Obviously we have school shootings, not that those are insignificant. Those are horrible, but that's one lone guy. This was a coordinated event where, you have over a couple hundred casualties, and these are just civilians trying to live their day-to-day life, and you're going to respond you're going to give a symbolic response. You have Russia here.
Carpet bombing. Essentially.
Yes. Sending in 25, the largest modern day bombing raid. And then your response is to hit a couple empty buildings.
Yeah.
I'm not, maybe...
we could be wrong. My sources could be bad.
Maybe it's bad intel.
But I have a feeling it wasn't.
But,
in the other interesting thing...
Is that how we solve this problem?
No. But to be honest, I don't think bombing raids never pretty much solved anything. When Britain was getting bombed, that didn't do shit. Yeah, that didn't serve the Germans.
It definitely bogged down, and it definitely hindered Great Britain, but it didn't take them out.
So the interesting thing
that's worse. If you either have to eliminate your enemy, you do a minor payback. It's going to come back twice as hard to bite you.
So the bombing raids in Britain, and this will go for any bombing campaign. If you're in your hometown and you're at war, and this is what happened in Britain, scientists concluded that it actually raised morale, the German bombing campaign on Britain, because when a bomb struck, there were the first level of people that affected, and that was the people who were dead, injured, and family and friends who knew them and died. Then there were level 2 people, and that was people who just missed the attack, right? They were right outside the zone. Their houses didn't get damaged. They didn't get hurt. They didn't really know anyone who got hurt. So that's level 2. Then level 3 are people who it didn't affect at all. They didn't even know anyone. They weren't even by it. So what it does to level 1 and 2 people is it starts boosting their ego, thinking like, I'm invincible. They can't get me. They never got me. And then they get mad and they're like, you know what,
let's retaliate.
Yeah, screw Germany, whatever. So it ends up like almost backfiring in a sense and bringing people together. So like these bombing campaigns, well, you hit an ISIS supply depot for oil. That's their bread and butter, right? That's where they make all the money. Yeah, that's going to hurt them. But when you carpet bomb buildings or just do that type of stuff, especially in Raqqa, their headquarters, in a sense, like, that terrifies the civilians that are there, and that's horrible for them. But
it terrifies the civilians. You don't want to do that because then you give them an excuse. You killed so-and-so's brother who doesn't want to be part of ISIS. ISIS starts looking pretty nice now. Mm-hmm. They're going to give you a gun. They're going to give you some money to go fight.
A lot of money.
They're going to give you a lot of money. And they're going to tell you, go fight. Go fight the people who killed your brother. Yeah. That's a pretty motivating factor.
It is. It definitely is, especially the money. Where it basically in Raqqa, that's ISIS's stronghold in Syria. The only way you make a living there and survive is if you are fighting for them, and they pay you pretty well for what wages are over there, especially if you're a doctor.
They pay you more than the United States does, right?
I mean, if we were,
well, no, not. I'm saying our military. I'm saying the Syrian rebels, the moderate.
Yeah, the Syrian rebels that we're trying to arm.
We give them a gun and a little bit of money. Then ISIS comes around, and what do they give them?
More money.
More money.
Yeah.
Who are you going to join?
More money.
The more money. You're a mercenary. You've developed that mercenary mindset. You're going to go to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And you're going to fight for people who are fighting for your land, not people who are don't really have a vested interest, who have kind of screwed over enough of your fellow countrymen. And what's more likely to get joined? I mean, you have Syrian moderate rebels fighting the Syrian regime, and then you have ISIS fighting that same regime, and you have the United States funding the moderate rebels. But if you can go to, I would say your primary goal, if you are, whether you're a Syrian rebel or if you're ISIS, is to overthrow the Syrian regime.
Yeah.
And if that's your primary goal, if you can find a better way to do it, if you can have help along from a third-party country, i.e. the United States, to give you a gun, and then you get more money to support your family that has been killed by possibly, whether it be United States, Russian, or French bombings, why wouldn't you go to the other side? Why wouldn't you join ISIS? Does that mean we are indirectly funding ISIS?
No.
No, if we pay for the gun and a little bit of money of a
Syrian rebel,
and then ISIS offers, okay, we're going to kill you, or we're going to give you money and you can join ISIS.
I mean, we can't control that. I mean, but yeah, then they got the rifle we gave the guy, and you can make that.
I mean, there's pictures of John McCain with these moderate rebels several years back that are now, we have confirmed, part of ISIS.
Yeah. you can't stop
We're
them.
Indirectly funding. So obviously,
think about all the equipment they've gone from Iraq.
Absolutely.
They're driving. They've got American tanks. I mean, it's like, yeah.
We are not. I do not believe.
It's like when Tony Stark almost dies from his own. For those of you who've seen, Iron Man. It's when Tony Stark almost dies by his own stuff. Our weapons and tanks and missiles have fallen into the wrong hands, which there's nothing we can do to stop that.
So, what is the proper response to combat? Russia seems like they're doing some damage, but again, they have vested interests on the other side. They are apparently
propping up the Assad regime. Assad is their investment, and if Assad fails, then Russia, in a sense, fails. So, you're gonna do everything you can to prop up your investment, which is Assad. So, Russia's by no means innocent. They've committed, Assad's committed so many war crimes, barrel bombing his own people. Yeah.
Chemical warfare, crucifixion. you have Saddam Hussein in Iraq all over again.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's
not the person that you want leading any country, and especially one particularly in the Middle East. That you're going to cause these problems by ruling so ruthlessly.
So one of the things that I think the U.S. is failing on is basically combating ISIS's propaganda online. So, for example, the night that the French launched their bombing attack, and it was all over the news and whatever. If you looked in there bombing Raqqa, so if you looked on Twitter under the hashtag Raqqa, there were tons of accounts posting, look what French just did, and there were pictures of dead kids, right? In Raqqa. All these dead kids, all these dead children, parents crying, all this stuff, and there are all these Twitter accounts blowing up, right? So I'm looking at this, that's totally plausible in the bombing campaign that you hit civilians and that happens.
Absolutely.
But part of me was this is I have a feeling this is bullshit. So I looked it up.
Recycled pictures?
Yeah, so I looked it up, and yeah, you just download the picture. If you've ever seen Catfish, same thing they do. Download the picture to your desktop, drag it into Google search, and you can get the real stuff on it. Those are all pictures of what happened after Assad bombed his own people. He bombed a preschool and killed 58 kids.
But most people aren't smart enough to do the research.
Yeah, exactly.
Take the time to do what you do. So they automatically, a picture, a symbol is a very powerful thing.
Yeah. So automatically, half these people on Twitter are like, oh my God, Paris, this is so much worse than what happened to you. Everyone's ragging on France. And, all these accounts are bullshit accounts. They're made by Russia, or they're made by ISIS, or they're just dumb people spreading, stuff that they don't know is true. So where is America combating that online? This message, there should be American accounts out there. This is going to sound maybe against my thing, but America needs propaganda, right? We need to push our own propaganda and our own message, or at least combat the negative truth. Yeah, the
because that's
false,
why people keep joining ISIS.
Yeah.
They
see that and they're like, oh, America's the devil.
Yeah.
Why did they kill those children? In reality, no, that was Assad.
You can't assume that everybody's that intellectual, that they're going to be able to decipher through all the bullshit in today's information age.
Yeah.
Like what you did. You said, this looks a little suspicious. I'm just going to double check my sources. Oh, wow. This picture is...
Yeah, it's
this
bullshit. Isn't
the right picture.
Yeah.
But to the thousands, hundreds of thousands, of millions of people that aren't willing to put in that much effort, that are willing to just see and believe everything that comes in front of them.
Yeah.
To them, that works.
Yeah, and there's no American people or, America Twitter accounts or whatever trying to combat that message. And that's where they're missing out because people are so easily influenced.
What would be a good response to...
I'm just saying, so ISIS in Russia have crazy amounts of people who are on Twitter who have followings, and they're
fighting a propaganda war.
Yeah, they push their own propaganda, right?
Correct.
American is the exact same thing. I'm talking you have a John Christopher or something on a Twitter account saying, no, this isn't real, and you have a Sally Mae and
right.
Deshaun Jackson and all these people just tweeting that this isn't real, not referring to Deshaun Jackson, the football player, just a person named that, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying?
Came off the top of the dome.
Yeah.
I heard it.
So, America's really not doing anything to push their own influence on the internet where most of these people are being radicalized.
Because we don't care?
No, I just don't think we have the resources. And I don't think that our government is technologically... We might be technologically advanced enough to tap into anything we want to, but I don't think we've hit this point yet where we're really adopting social media and adopting these other strategies. And I think
that almost comes out in the presidential campaigning right now. That you would think that more of these political leaders trying to run for president you would think they'd be tapping. Bernie Sanders is kind of tapping into that college mentality, to the social media trends a little bit, but you would think that, for example, Hillary Clinton would be more on board. And I think that since we're not, is a reflection of our, like you said, we're not in with the times and that, so to speak. Back in, World War I, World War II, they dropped thousands of leaflets
Yeah, propaganda.
Of propaganda. And then people would believe it because they don't know what to believe necessarily. Whereas what we're failing to do that. This is the modern day leaflet.
So I'm just basically thinking that the U.S. is a little bit behind on getting on the social media propaganda train. And we used to do a lot of propaganda in World War I and World War II with the posters and dropping leaflets, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
we're a master propaganda. Just look at the modern day advertisement and marketing.
Yeah. And we're not basically, I mean, God, we're the most, all the capitalism and all the marketing we have in America. You think people like CIA and the military would be stealing these people away to make American propaganda, but that's just not happening. And to be honest, it blows my mind that we're not having more of an American propaganda message.
At advertisement.
Yeah.
There's nobody that comes remotely close to the influence. I mean, just to put 15 seconds on Super Bowl Sunday costs $1 million. How much do you think those people are paid to advertise? You don't think that you could pay those people to perform propaganda?
Yeah. I mean, God, I
guess propaganda has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But in this
But
sense,
we love being American. Straight up, that's the name of our show. We believe that the American message is a good one to be heard, and I think more people should be promoting it, and the government needs to invest more and more people promoting it. I mean, a lot of people might take this negatively, but I honestly don't care. I think
we have to obviously our response now and the international response to ISIS. I mean, as of today, is not working.
No, not at all.
They're still around. They're still causing problems internationally. The fact that they're still around boggles me.
Yeah. I mean, if you break it down, to be honest, they're paid mercenaries. People, most of these people are just trying to support their families and eat. If Russia or us were to straight up roll up, boots
troops
on the ground, we're invading Raqqa, we're rolling in on them heavy. How many would just surrender or give up or run? I mean, a lot probably. It would scare them to death.
Absolutely.
If we went full out.
Their enemy isn't real.
Yeah,
They're flying from the sky. They're dropping something. They don't know necessarily what they're fighting.
No, they don't. They have no idea what they're up against. I mean, and to prove this is look what they're doing. They're attacking Russia. They attack Paris. I mean, who knows? If they attack us, they attack Britain. They're just doing this and being like, ha ha ha, we got you.
Still fear. What do they do? Not to diminish what happened in Paris to the people what happened to the people, their families, is absolutely horrendous. That being said, in the grand scheme of things, they took out 200 people.
Not even
200 people. If the United States were to send ground troops, if Russia were to send ground troops, they could mop up the ISIS-held territory in a month.
Yeah.
Because that's not even their land. It's not even those people's lands. I mean, obviously in Desert Storm, we rolled through till we got to Iraq. Iraq was a little harder, but when you fight somebody in their own homeland, their own territory, they're going to fight tremendously harder. With ISIS, they're trying to create this homeland.
Yeah, it's not theirs yet.
It's not theirs yet. They don't even know what it could be. Ideally, they want to conquer the world and do their little thing in Sri Lanka and all that. Whatever. But it's not like we're marching in across borders.
Yeah.
If we were to go in, troops on the ground, not saying that we want to do this, that's probably the last alternative, but realistically, if NATO, the United States, and Russia, if we're semi-working on this together, let's just take care of it. Why don't we just end it?
Yeah,
why are we dragging it along? Us and Russia.
And to be honest, they're provoking everyone. They just executed a Chinese prisoner that they had.
They're taking out one prisoner. There's 1 point some odd billion people in China. I don't care if it's the president. You're taking out one person, and they're allowing these petty offenses in the grand scheme of things continue to go on.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't.
Yeah, their main thing is, with the Paris attacks, those are tragic. All
They
those
cause
people died.
terror.
Yeah, they
They
make people scared.
They
It makes
make
you
people
think.
more scared
Yeah.
than they actually should or need to be.
Yeah.
The event itself is scary. If you had to deal with it, it is terrible. It is horrendous. However,
statistically speaking, right? It's not like the chances of you dying in a terrorist attack are so slim, but for some reason it's like always in the back.
It's in your back of your mind. Oh, I'm flying. My parents, they just flew out to Florida.
Yeah.
My mom is terrified.
Yeah, I'm about to fly in a few days, and I know I don't have anything to be scared of, but it's like something in the back of your head.
And that's worse. Allowing that thought, allowing them to basically invade the thought of your mind is far worse
than the actual damage they do.
Being done.
So, that's in a sense terror at its finest, right? That's what they're trying to do.
That's all they can do.
Yeah, because if they were actually to fight a war with us or Russia or NATO, they'd lose.
We wouldn't have a chance.
Yeah, they wouldn't have a chance. We would literally roll through them. No problem. I mean, God, we're the winners of World War II, World War I. They couldn't even put up a fight even equivalent to what the Viet Cong could.
No.
In the Vietnam War. Or the Koreans even could in Korea. They have no idea. They don't even have a taste of it. We haven't even tried.
We haven't even fought them. We're just basically we're knocking down an avalanche so that an avalanche doesn't occur. We're just bombing the hillside. We have not. What Russia did.
Yeah, it's significant. It is badass what they did.
But even that
was more of a show of that wasn't even Russia trying to do damage. That was Russia showing we're still here. You know?
But they could. I don't know if I wouldn't say that we want to have ground troops. I don't know if I want to sacrifice an American soldier, American body to it. I don't think ISIS is worth the time, but this beast has been created where it needs to be dealt with now.
Mm-hmm. So what's interesting is Bill O'Reilly, and he's the host. For those of you, good old Bill. For those of you who don't know who Bill is, he's the host of the O'Reilly Factor on Fox News. It's been the number one cable news program for the last 12 years. Anyways, Bill O'Reilly brought up an interesting topic the other day. He always brings up kind of interesting things, and then he lays them out on his website. So his thing was, if you've been watching the news, there's a whole controversy right now with letting Syrian refugees into America because they're
supposedly
they might be.
That's how Paris was bombed. They're able
to
filter through Greece and get a passport.
Yeah, one of the people from the attacks in Paris were supposedly a Syrian refugee, and they're worried that the same thing's going to happen to, America if we let in Syrian refugees. Which I'm going to say right now is complete bullshit. If you're trying to get into America to bomb it. If you couldn't get in as being a Syrian refugee, there's a million other ways you could get into America.
Go to Mexico.
Yeah, go to Mexico. It's so easy. There's so many ways.
They got it down.
Take a boat from Cuba. If you're actually going to do this, come over. And ISIS touts that they have all these Americans with American passports. I'm sure they'll just get one of them. I think us turning away Syrian refugees is horrible.
It's honestly, it's chicken shit.
Yeah, it is. I don't care.
These people are running from the exact thing that we're trying to prevent from happening.
Yeah. People are oh, they're all men, they're not families. I really don't care. These are people who are probably really seeking shelter. I'm sure that less than 1% of them, if that, I just no way to even know.
There's one bad egg. What if we have, what if we let in 10,000 and one of them, even to assume that one of them would be able to carry out anything significant.
The odds are so slim.
You will never be able to prevent 100% safety.
Yeah.
And
I'm not down for giving up liberty and helping people over my safety either.
No.
That's everyone who's oh, I'm willing to give up a little bit of my privacy or a little bit of my liberty for safety. That is bullshit. That's not America. That's going down a slippery slope.
This
really
might be
fast.
a slippery slope, but what if not that we could quarantine them, but 10,000 people isn't that much.
No, you could keep tabs on them.
Keep tabs on them.
With the technology
With
we
the
have.
tabs we have in the United States,
Yeah,
you don't think that
the
we can
NSA
watch
is listening
over?
to all of our phone calls. You could, I mean, God, put that manpower to work. If like you think the people are so threatening, then watch them for a little
Right.
bit. Whatever.
You'll be able. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out if they're doing something. Check up on them. I mean, if we're gonna spend the money and the resources, I would say that most of these people we don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
99.
I agree.
Point some odd percent of them are decent human beings that are running away from the violence that we
Don't want here.
Don't want here,
Or
and we don't want around the world supposedly.
Yeah.
So it's really. I mean, we talked about insensitivity last week.
Yeah.
We're really not being sensitive with them.
Really.
I mean,
So-
they came all the way from Syria
To come to America.
come to America.
That's quite a journey. I mean, I don't know. I just feel bad for these people. But back to my point, O'Reilly was saying that what we do is NATO, the 28 NATO nations, go into Syria, right? And they set up safe zones for Syrians. So, like, safe zones for Syrians to live in where if, there's no fly zones, no one can bomb them, no one can attack them, all that stuff, and NATO troops protect them. So that prevents refugees from flooding into Europe and coming to the U.S.
United States.
And then us, and then we're able to protect
So
them.
what we do in Africa?
We
Blood Diamond. You've seen Blood Diamond.
Yeah. So like that, but I mean that's also going off the notion that NATO is actually a real thing. I mean, NATO proves
NATO
so many
done
times to be
in
a
this-
joke.
What has NATO done? I've heard that the United States bombs, Russia bombs, France bombed, but what did NATO do?
So supposedly the
coalition.
Going back to this morning, with what happened in Mali, basically Islamic extremists stormed a Radisson hotel in Mali and they killed 21 people and they took 120 something hostage, and then the UN special forces actually went in and basically executed
It was just
all of
security forces.
Yeah, UN security forces went in and took care of the problem and got almost all the hostages out. So that's UN, doing something. But from what I've heard and from my sources, it was just US special forces. It wasn't
The
anyone
United
else.
States is the UN.
Yeah,
Is that what we're saying? So
essentially.
what is in? I mean,
come on.
Which
Not
is-
all 20 nations of the. I mean, the UN. I didn't want to
the
get
UN
started.
is upset. It's. Anyways, I'm not.
28
I'm
nations.
not going to give it.
Most of which 20 probably won't do anything because they're scared, like Canada.
I mean, France borderline didn't do much,
yeah.
and they got attacked. Well, I mean, where's Great
Canada
Britain?
stopped
Where's
bombing
Germany?
ISIS.
You
Yeah.
think, I mean,
Germany, the richest. I mean, Germany's the richest country.
now granted,
GDP wise, the richest in the world right now. Not
Yeah.
actually with oil, but like they're pulling in the most GDP.
Yeah.
They're in pretty damn good
And
shape.
what are they doing?
Nothing.
What are we doing?
Not much either.
But Russia's doing something.
So I mean, basically moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here. So many things are going on right now. So many countries are responding to this threat that everything seems up in the air. So it's all about who makes the next move.
And it's unfortunate that we have to discuss this. You'd think that our political leaders would be able to shape this up and take care of the problem. And I genuinely hope that we provide the right solution because, I mean, we should not have to succumb to terrorism as we are and live in fear. Not that I'm necessarily so afraid, but it should not be in the back of my mind. It should not be in the back of your mind.
Or anyone's mind.
Or anybody else's. So I would hopefully by maybe if we discuss this enough that a proper solution will come up.
Definitely. I agree. So with that, we're going to shift to the Who's Our Pinhead of the Week segment. And I think we're going to let, Henry, we're going to let you decide who that is this week.
Pinhead of the week?
Yeah, in all of America, who's the Pinhead of the Week?
I would say Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Charlie
that's a good
Sheen,
one.
he came out with HIV. He's apparently had it for 4 years.
Yeah, and he's paid off.
When did his little tiger blood and winning rant come? Was it 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Is that when he did it? He just went on a bender, had a bunch of prostitutes and whores and stuff, infected them for sure.
Or got infected by them.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
We'll never know. But yeah, Charlie Sheen.
It's got to catch up with you. I guess he slept with over 5,000 women.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But the thing is, like,
women.
How do you keep track? I'm pretty sure after, maybe you could keep track to, 100.
Maybe.
150.
No, you forget after 50. You can't remember all 50. The guy said, unless you document this stuff. Because if you're up in the 50s to the 100s.
5,000. That's like having sex every day for how many years?
There's 365 days. Let's just say 300 to keep it safe. Give us.
Yeah.
You're talking about every year for, 20 years.
God, it's so almost as he's been having sex every single day
women.
since the day I was born. Well, not quite, but almost. Damn.
Because, dude, 10 years if he had sex with 300 women every year.
Yeah,
that's only 3,000.
Yeah, oh my god.
So that's he's coming on 15 years and just straight every night he's got a new woman. That's impossible.
Yeah, no, that's exaggerated.
That's got to be exaggerated.
It's Charlie Sheen, you never know.
But you never know. I mean, the guy still has fake teeth. I'm sure. He's a character.
All right. Well, with that being said, hey, we appreciate you joining us for another episode. This is only our second episode. Thanks for tuning in again.
It's really a pleasure. I get really excited. I look forward to Fridays now.
Yeah.
Not to go out and tear up the town, but to talk to you and to eventually hear your voice. That's what we really hope for.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, taking time out of your day to join us. I'm Andrew.
I'm Henry.
And this is Love Being American.
Peace out.
Hey guys, it's Andrew. Just wanted to say that if you enjoyed listening to us, we'd really appreciate it if you could go ahead and leave us a rating and a 5-star review in iTunes. That basically helps us get pushed to the top of the list and, really helps more people discover this podcast. And I'd also like to say that, this is our second episode. We're still working through things here, so bear with us. The sound quality is going to improve over time, and we're just really focused on making a better show for you each and every week. Thanks again, and we'd really appreciate a 5-star review.